Mr. Knopp, Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a consequence of our desire to keep rolling on implementing the Delta Plan, we've undertaken a broad series of actions over the last month, and some of them I'd like to talk about. Initially, staff has been busy moving forward with hiring an implementation coordinator, which is the key coordination function of the council. And associated with that, the implementation committee, under the new leadership of Randy Fiorini, we've had meetings with several outside enterprises, including the Metropolitan Water District, the Northern California Water Association, San Luis, Mendota Water District, and the Resources Agency. And basically the questions we've been asking of these people is basically what can we do, what actions can we carry forward with right now? And in this specific case, the question was related to reliability of water supply. And we've had some good discussions. I think there's some very hopeful actions that we're looking forward to developing further. Also, in the theme of moving forward with implementing the plan, our science program has been actively involved lately in several efforts. Two of them specifically. One is we've held a predation workshop, and of course that predation workshop is in response to a policy and two recommendations that are in the plan regarding invasive species. Specifically, it's Delta Plan Policy ER P5 to avoid introductions and habitat improvements for invasive non-native species. Recommendation 6, regulate angling for non-native sport fish to protect native species. And Recommendation 7, prioritize and implement actions to control non-native invasive species. So that workshop was aimed at moving forward on those items in the Delta Plan. In addition, adaptive management is one of the foundational components of the plan, and of course it's something that I think a lot of agencies in the Delta already have an idea of what they want to do for an adaptive management program. But the broader question that the Council is asking is how do we coordinate those, how do we make it better, how do we make it function on a Delta-wide basis? And to that effort, as a result of the litigation on the Delta smelt consolidated cases, the judge in that case asked Fish and Wildlife Service and Bureau of Reclamation to convene a team to basically look at adaptive management with regard to the biological opinions. And the purpose of that was to halt the counterproductive litigation cycle. And there were three goals associated with that. And they were to identify and evaluate management actions to protect listed species, to develop a monitoring program that will allow the evaluation of costs and benefits of alternative actions, and thirdly, to support the development of an annual operations plan. All that is the goal of the adaptive management plan for the BIOPS. Of course, the tie with our adaptive management program is obvious. This is happening right now, and it's an opportunity from our perspective to use this as a pilot program to initiate a lot of the efforts that we have been working on over the last year on adaptive management, and to give it a trial and see how it works and have it work specifically with other agencies. So it's a great opportunity. What I'd like to do is let Peter Goodwin, our scientist, comment on both the predation workshop and let us know a little bit about what had happened at that workshop, as well as the coordinated adaptive management team actions, and then anything else you'd like to say in that.
All right. Dr. Goodwin.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so the predation workshop, we've been using that as a model around these very contentious issues. So a lot of effort has gone in from the planning side. We'd really like to acknowledge the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the many different agencies and stakeholders that contributed to the planning process. We're expecting the final report from this panel to be to the science program by September, and we'll obviously report back in a lot more detail at that point. The purpose of this first workshop is we see this as the first in a series, And the goal was really to understand what is known, what's being done, where are the key gaps in information, and where should we go on this very important issue. So perhaps I could certainly talk about some of the details and outcomes, but these are preliminary, and maybe I'll just stop there on that particular issue unless there's some specific questions.
Okay. Further going along with moving forward on implementing the plan, one of our roles is to be a responsible agency, and by that we're required to comment on other actions within the Delta that are significant. And to that event, we submitted comments on the Bay Delta Conservation Plan's administrative draft of its EIR. Again, I think some our comments in general are intended to be supportive and constructive to the outcome of creating the most thorough analysis and objective analysis as possible. We don't take a position on the Delta Plan. We're not for the Delta Plan or the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. We're not against the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. We are interested in a thorough analysis that's associated with it. And to that extent, some of the comments that we provided were focused primarily on one of our key roles, which is to determine consistency of the BDCP with the Delta Plan. And in that vein, our comments were focused on flow criteria and analysis and the operational requirements of flows, as well as water quantity in the Delta as it is affected by water quality. And by that, what I mean is that if you change the water quality in the Delta, then the availability of water for specific purposes is likely to change as well. And that was a deficiency that we had noted. We also made comments on the evaluation of catastrophic failures in the Delta, and specifically of levees. We wanted a more thorough analysis of that, of sea level rise, of conservation measures. In the BDCP and the current version of the draft, the conservation measure number 1, which is having to do with conveyance, is thoroughly analyzed, but the others are put off because they're judged to be too far in the future. Our perspective on that is that actually the timing of that conservation measure 1, as well as some of the restoration conservation measures that follow, 2 through 11, in effect are likely to occur in a very similar time frame and should be evaluated together. One of the other things that is going to be occurring in the very near future is we'll be making similar comments on other issues. And the 3 that are on our plate right now are the Shasta Dam enlargement, the San Joaquin solar facility improvements, or development rather, and Feather River levee improvements. So with those, we'll be doing responsible agency comments and providing, again, what I hope are constructive, value-added comments to those agencies and groups so that, in fact, they can be consistent with the Delta Plan. Okay. With that, I conclude my report.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Knopp? All right. Ms. Pearson, did you want to do a legislative report?